To the May edition of the Iowa 911 Communications Council. We'll start our introductions if we can start on this end, and then Robert, if you can take a mic out to the crowd, I'd appreciate that.
James Chambers, CenturyLink, representing Large Telecom.
Mark Murphy, Dubuque County, representing the Iowa Firefighters Association.
Blake DeRucci, Iowa Homeland Security and Emergency Management, 911 Program Manager.
Tracy Bearden, Polk County Emergency Management, representing Iowa NENA.
Angie Dobbins, Potawatomi County, representing Iowa APCO.
Rob Denner from the city of West Des Moines, representing the Iowa EMS Association.
Rob Rotter, Iowa County Sheriff, representing Iowa State Sheriffs and Deputies Association.
Mike Bryant, representing the Iowa Professional Firefighters.
George Griffith, Urbandale Police Department, representing the Iowa Peace Officers Association.
Jack D'Angelo, Sully Telephone, representing small telcos.
Robert Johannesson, Iowa Department of Public Safety.
Lawrence Harpence, representing IJIC.
Diane Seifert, South Central Iowa.
Taylor Teeple, CenturyLink.
Wayne Johnson, CenturyLink.
John Drury, CenturyLink.
Dwayne Voss with Raycom.
Brad Schatz with Jasper County Sheriff.
Josh Humphrey, Iowa County EMA.
Jeff Edwards, Des Moines Police Department. Scott Rounds, Des Moines PD.
Curtis Pione, Polk County Sheriff's Office.
Michael Aurician.
Chris Myers on the SWIC.
Jason Studi. Miller, Iowa County.
Jason Studi, Potawatomi County 911.
Cody Brink with Zetron.
Brian Midwell, Westcom.
Darren Riney, Westcom.
Tammy Rodriguez, ICN.
Stephen Rodriguez, ICN.
Holly Davidson, DPS.
Connie Stufflebeam, DPS.
Brian Flynn, Motorola.
Amanda Roush, Story County 911.
Jim Lundstedt, DHS Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
Joel Martin, Utilities Board.
One more.
Sherry Schmitz with Motorola.
Okay, and then if we could have the introductions on the telephone, please.
Tom Berger from Dubuque County.
Cheryl Eckloff, Mahaska County.
Brenda Vandervoort, Fayette County 911.
Okay, thank you and welcome. If I could have a motion to approve the agenda today. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Against? The motion carries. And then likewise, a motion to approve the April 11th minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Against? Motion carries. Blake.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to be passing around a couple of documents, quarterly reports for your attention. First on the PSAP sheet, the large spreadsheet with all the numbers. Just really want to draw your attention to one item. It's also on my slide. Basically, it's normal what you're used to looking at. Just want to draw your attention to Chickasaw County. It has the asterisks on it. That $30,000 total reflects their total amount. We did have to withhold 35% of that. We sent certified letters notifying them of such. and that is from their expenditure collection form that we have not received yet. That was due the end of March. We haven't received it. We sent them, like I said, certified notifications that it's still outstanding. Once we receive that, as long as it's before March 31st of next year, we will go ahead and release that surcharge money. So this reflects their total amount, not their 65% amount. If you go to the quarterly report, again, this is a form you're fairly familiar with at this point. Nothing's really changed with the design of it. Total surcharge revenue for the quarter was $7.8 million. Total surcharge was $7.7 million. The difference, of course, is the interest. You can see what the bills cost this month. And total PSAP funding, the 60% of the surcharge then comes out to about $4.6 million. Total operating funds in the surplus, if you go down to the second box, there's about 15.2 in the surplus right now. We always subtract the $3.5 million. That would be for the catastrophic reserve. So if we had to zero it out today, there would be about 11.7 in there to zero out. Just a reminder that next quarterly report is when we will zero that amount out. I've had our fiscal analysts in our department to start taking a look at what that amount will be. I know it says 11.7 there. We've also encumbered some of the funds with Zetron shared services and some of the network merging stuff. It's closer to, I believe, 7 or 8 million on what we'll end up passing through. So fairly similar to what PSAP's got last year, which was about 61,000 per PSAP. So any questions on the quarterly reports at all? Sean, if you can throw the slideshow up, that would be great. Oh, it's there. Perfect. Thanks. Sent out an email earlier in the week about House File 516. That did get signed late last week by the governor. That adds the sheriff of every county and the police chief where there is a PSAP in a city to the 911 service board. We will have to go through the rulemaking process on that. So our email was basically some initial guidance on how that really works. A lot of service boards already have the sheriffs as a representative to the service board. In that case, the sheriff still has a vote. It's going to be representing the sheriff's office at this point. And then the political subdivision, that is the county, would need to find someone else to represent the county as a political subdivision. Kind of the same thing on the police side as far as the city goes. The police chief has a vote. That person is now representing the police department and the PSAP. And the city, as a political subdivision, needs to find someone to represent them as well. So that's at least our initial guidance on it at this point. That law goes into effect July 1st. And again, we anticipate having to go through the rulemaking process, and we'll make sure to send out notifications as those hearings and meetings go on. Haven't gotten a ton of feedback, just maybe some clarification emails on that House file. Any questions from anyone here on what I've described? Okay. Next, and I know Zetron will talk about it a little bit more in depth. In April, we did turn up Jefferson County on the shared services. So that's really the first standalone, for real PSAP that got turned up on shared services. Talks about Hancock County being the proof of concept. That is not on a permanent host solution. So Jefferson County is up on the redundant host on both of them and working really well so far. And we'll be turning up Poweshiek next week. So we'll start to go a little bit faster, and that's what Zetron will describe here in a little bit. So Jefferson County is up and running, Poweshiek is next week, and then away we go. Windstream bankruptcy filing, probably the last time I'll have this up there. I just wanted to follow up again. They did receive kind of permanent authorization to continue remitting surcharge both to the state and to local jurisdictions. So business as usual as far as surcharge remittance, and business as usual, really, we have Windstream as the connection for the secondary ESI net. That's the 13 bigger PSAPs in the state that have both connections to the ICN and Windstream. Again, business as usual throughout that bankruptcy proceeding. The ALI webinar that we've talked about, again, also for a couple months, I saw a draft or a preview, kind of a dry run of what the Comtech was proposing to hold for PSAPs to attend. Kind of tweaked their presentation a little bit. So I haven't put out notification on when that is actually going to be, but anticipate it here within the next couple weeks. And it'll be about 30 minutes of why we would want to have a statewide alley project, statewide alley contract, and about 30 minutes of kind of a high level demonstration of what that portal could look like or would look like to give folks a kind of a way to see what their interaction or what that interface would look like. So that's kind of they're kind of going back to the drawing board a little bit and tweaking that webinar format. So talked about the 35% withheld from Chickasaw County. Also, this is kind of the annual thing I bring up. We improved this year on the undesignated funds on y'all's budgets. Last year, it was $28 million in undesignated funds. And again, my message there is to somebody just looking at the raw budget numbers, that would have meant $28 million in local funding that you had no plan for. So this year it decreased, which is great. It went down to 19 million. Still a lot in there, but a more manageable number. So thank you for listening and continue to improve on that as you think about budgets. I know we just completed our budget cycle, but next year and into the future.
Blake, one thing I would suggest is the budgeting portal where we put in with the department. I think it's important that they recognize that it automatically puts in undesignated. So just to highlight, maybe there's something they can change or to make it a little bit more user friendly for people, because unless you know how to counteract that and to put, you might make that mistake.
One thing that's actually kind of exciting, and I'll take that feedback, Department of Management actually reached out to me. They are changing not only the form itself, but the online system. So they actually asked me for feedback, and I gave them a couple items on how, just the way I've seen local budgets come in and try to make things a little bit different. Like, it doesn't make sense that wireless revenue is listed under other revenue on the budget, and wire or telephone surcharge is bolded and wireless is kind of hidden. So I said, there's ways to tweak that to make it easier. But that's another one that I'll see if there's any way that it can kind of default differently within the system. I'll say it. I'll ask if there's a way. Any other questions on that slide? The 2019 GIS grants are the current year. 5 counties met the benchmarks in April, totaling $30,000. And you can see kind of the 6-month period that started in January. At this point, 78 counties have met those benchmarks. And then for the entire fiscal year thus far, it's just over $1 million. Looking ahead to 2020, we've scheduled 2 webinars with GeoCom to talk about a couple things, and this is the bottom bullet there. I'm kind of skipping ahead. Those webinars are May 23rd from 1 to 2:30 and May 31st from 9 to 10:30. Those will also be recorded and posted to our website for those that can attend. But we're going to do 2 things during those webinars. We're going to talk about the 2020 benchmarks and grant program, and we're also going to demonstrate and show their new upload portal, which is called Data Hub. There's a whole lot more user-friendly, a lot of useful tools within that system compared to what your folks are used to using at this point. So again, the webinar is kind of twofold there. Just to give you a preview of what we're going to talk about, unless something changes before those webinars, the benchmarks are going to change a little bit as well, but it's the same overall process for the GIS grants. 2 different upload periods. You have to get to 98% GIS match rates, and we're going to go ahead and try to get to 95% alley. It's marked there in red as tentative, and you can kind of see where everyone is now already. I think there's already almost 50 counties that already meet that 95% benchmark, and then another good chunk, another good third or so of the counties are right there at that 95% level. So should be able to meet that within the first 6 months. And the reason we want to drive that hard to get to that 95% is because we want to start using this data sooner rather than later. We want to get to that statewide 95% so we can start using that data, and we're right there, so we might as well. And at the same time, all the really smart GIS folks that are kind of in my ear and talking to me about where we need to be have kind of stepped back and said, you know what, we don't actually need the MSAG as far as GIS and road to center lines and submitting that data. So tentatively now also that won't be a benchmark. So it'll just be the two benchmarks, the GIS overall accuracy and alley to road center line. Any questions on that? Again, those are still kind of tentative, but starting to solidify. Kind of by the end of the month, we want to have that locked down. We'll talk about it on the webinar and get it out formally soon after that. Finally, just a snapshot of the Council Travel, Public Education, and Training Fund. You can read the numbers there. Still need to get a lot of invoices in at this point. That wave that we approved in January, and then for APCO and NENA, all need to get submitted to us and paid out. You have till the end of the fiscal year, though, to do that. So that's why there's still, that's just listed as obligated. That's it. Any questions? Thanks.
Thank you, Blake. I don't believe we have any training funds for this. Okay. Any technical advisories from the board? No? Okay. I have one item. Okay, go ahead.
I have one item here. I apologize, it's a little late. I wasn't able to make last month's meeting, but it's something from here from the FCC. Begins consideration on new 911 capabilities. The Federal Communications Commission has approved a proposal for consideration that would require new enhancements from carriers. I believe this is from wireless carriers to provide better in-building service for 911 callers in urban areas. The new standards would require carriers to be able to pinpoint a caller's altitude within 10 feet to help rescuers determine what floor within a building they are calling from, a common issue from first responders in cities. A vote for this proposal will come during a later meeting, and if approved, rollout would begin in 2021 with carriers required to deliver targeted caller location on at least 80% of indoor 911 calls. The deployment of the standards would begin in larger cities where the need is most pressing. So just wanted to pass that along.
I would think that's going to be quite an undertaking.
There was a lot of back and forth between industry and kind of public safety agencies, and I think industry wanted that that 10 feet or I think 3 meters or whatever it is to be larger, but kind of public safety said, if it's 20 feet or 15 feet, that's the height of a floor, and it could be a floor off. And the FCC did settle on the public safety recommendation of that 3 meters or 10 feet. So a little bit more of the feedback there. It sounded like the FCC actually kind of went with public safety. And I want to say they passed this. I know this is, with this being March, I thought I saw a bulletin that they passed it, but it's somewhere in that process of about to happen or looks like it's going to happen.
Anything else? Okay, up next, our SWIC, Chris Myers.
Council. Just some updates for you this morning. We are rolling out equipment as part of the PSAP grant to counties along the RAGBRAI route. We also have now in our possession the Harris control stations at DPS storage, and I have an example of that package over there. It's a little bit of a different looking package. It's got the mobile radio there with the control station setup. It's got a power supply. The speaker's still in the box, and the rack mounting kit and desk mic are there also. The other cables and connectors are in the box. So The plan is to get those programmed up and get those counties that requested the Harris package along the RAGBRAI out as quickly as we can. In addition, we have been working on the programming information and personalities for those radios while we've been waiting for them to be delivered. So that work will probably take off later this afternoon. We're still kind of ironing out a few things with the Kenwood order, but I think we have an end in sight for that, so that's good. Had a couple of other things pop up with that, and we're working our way through that, but we don't expect that to delay things too long. Applications up for today for approval include Adams County at level 2, ATF at level 2, City of Cedar Rapids level 1, Mercy Ambulance update to level 2 to add more radios, U.S. Capitol Police level 2, and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services that's under the Office of the Inspector General, Office of Investigations for level 2. Our interstate interoperability work is continuing. We actually have some documents now that are in draft form that are going to be moved to the AG's office for review. Some of those documents include agreements with the state of Illinois. So we're making very, very good progress with that. Our governance committee has seen them. They didn't necessarily see anything that raised any red flags offhand, but again, anytime you sign something, it's always good to have the AG's office review that, so that's the path we're taking. Update also on some training through ECD that the board will be offering, the PSAP cybersecurity webinar. We don't have a hard date for that set at this point, but it looks like it's going to be mid to late August. So with that, my hope is that we can have that ironed out soon. In a utopian world, we'd be announcing the date next week and publishing the form for PSAP managers to sign up for that. So figure mid to late August for that. We do have a response as well on how many virtual seats it can handle. It can handle up to 100. Now, I realize that presents an issue because we have more than 100 PSAPs in Iowa. The beauty of this is that we can record it. We plan on recording it and making it as on demand as we possibly can long term. I'm not sure of any special agreements or logistics we have to have in order to record it and then offer it for playback on demand, but we will be working through those things as we further discuss that TA. Once we are ready to go, expect to see an announcement from us on that training course in coordination with HSEMD and that form being sent out as soon as we can. So Blake, I will be asking you for an updated PSAP managers list once we have everything ready to go. One final item of business, the FirstNet Regional Forum is set for the last week of May, specifically the 29th through the 30th at Prairie Meadows. There's going to be a lot of presentations on FirstNet itself there and the types of services that it is offering and some interoperability things that come with the FirstNet network. I know you guys have some more things on the agenda today, so in the interest of brevity, I'll stop there and take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, up next, an update for cybersecurity and infrastructure security from Jim Lundstedt.
Good morning. Just emphasizing what Chris covered about the availability of the cybersecurity awareness webinar that we're working on. Just was reading a situational alert on a new variant of ransomware that has affected U.S. government as well as local government in the last couple of days called Robinhood. As you return to your PSAPs today and your entities, it's a good time to chat with your IT director and understand how your network is segmented and protected. A major East Coast city was targeted yesterday, and 7 of their 8 domain controllers, I won't go into all the gobbledygook, but they were encrypted and had to be restored. It did not interrupt 911, PSAP, CAD, or 311, but all other city services were impacted. So it's a good time to raise your shields, if you will, and be sure you understand what your architecture protects you from and how you're segmented in the traffic layers. We're happy to work on this cybersecurity awareness activity briefing, but the number one thing, and I emphasize this every time I talk about cybersecurity, what's the number one way we get infiltrated? External email, active links, documents, PDFs, URLs that appear to point to something you want to see that don't. So once again, hover and cover and raise your shields. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, up next, a committee update for the 34A Administrative Code Committee.
So the notes are going to go out to committee members either tomorrow or early next week. There's not been a big push for actual changes to Chapter 34A. There has been some that you will see next meeting. I'll have them for you to look over, the proposed language and additional changes to Chapter 34A, but the main push is to regain that local control and to provide best practices and standards that can unify 911 across the state while providing greater control to the local entities and the PSAPs. So our next meeting, as I said, I'll have those changes for the board to look at. I will be sending out the notes to you probably within 2 weeks for you to review, so you'll have them before the next council meeting. Any questions?
Thank you, Tracy. I did hear from Jamie in reference to our 911 Communications Professional Baseline Knowledge Committee, and they are going to be meeting on the 17th, so they don't have a new update for this meeting, but we'll hear from them our next meeting. Any legislative issues? I don't have any unfinished business unless there is some that I'm unaware of. Okay. Any new business that I'm unaware of? And travel requests. Okay. Do we have any business from the floor?
I forgot to turn it over to Zetron, so.
Oh, okay.
I know, I did that last month too with ICN.
Okay. All right, we'll hear from Zetron.
Thank you. Cody Brink with Zetron. Just a couple quick notes for an update this month. As Blake had said, very exciting news that we went effectively live on April 25th. So great news on there. Jefferson is up and working properly, and everything is looking good at this time. And we've got the tentative schedule at this time to go move forward would be Jefferson County, followed by Poweshiek County. And then after that, we will be turning up Hancock and Winnebago at the same time, the same unique deployment. Hancock at that time will go from an island proof of concept to full live. So all good to go there. And after those 4 are done, we're going to be doing some more testing and going through and moving forward to deploy to the rest of the 33 PSAPs that have signed up for the program. So short and sweet, and that's all I've got. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business from the floor? Okay, is there any business anyone would like to talk about on the phone? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? And we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.